Please, mighty human Nay took my sister. Will you save her with me? Cried the little alien girl. The sky over Proxima 4 never truly changed, forever caught in a perpetual twilight that painted the jagged horizon in deep crimson and violet. Evan Kane sat hunched at a dented metal table in his one-room quarters, a chipped glass of Proxima moonshine cradled loosely in his hand. The drink burned like liquid fuel, fitting for a concoction probably distilled in the same vats used for shuttle coolant. He welcomed the burn. It drowned out thought, blurred the edges of memory. But it never erased the faces dotting the corner. His battle armor stood like a ghost, plates dulled and dented, edges scored from plasma fire. The visor still bore the faint scorch mark from the last mission he'd led, the one that had turned into a slaughter, New Berlin. His squad, gone because he'd trusted bad intel. That armor was the closest thing to a gravestone he had for them. He never put it on anymore. Never intended to. New Haven was as far from the core worlds as a man could get without falling into the black. A patchwork settlement of scavenged prefab walls and alien stone, it was home to a scattering of humans and the pale-skinned natives, the Proximans. They treated him with the careful respect given to dangerous tools useful for hunting the predators that stalked the outskirts or driving off the occasional bandit, but too sharp to keep too close. Evan preferred it that way. Distance was safe. Distance didn't die in your arms. He tipped the last of the moonshine down his throat and set the glass aside, its dull ring echoing in the quiet. That was when the pounding started, urgent, rapid, rattling the thin composite door. He frowned. No one came to him unannounced. Before he could rise, the door burst inward on faulty hinges, letting in a wash of cold dusk air and the silhouette of something small. The figure stumbled forward, illuminated by the dim yellow lamp in the corner. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old in human terms, though her narrow frame and delicate features marked her as Proximan. Her snow-white hair spilled in loose waves down to her waist, stark against skin the pale blue of glacial ice. Her eyes were enormous, shimmering pools that seemed too big for her face, brimming with tears, and she was holding a sword dot. It was nearly as tall as she was, forged of an alien metal that pulsed faintly with an inner light. The blade was etched with deep, curling symbols that glowed at the edges, as if the weapon were alive and breathing. She gripped it in both trembling hands, struggling under its weight, yet refusing to set it down. "Please," she gasped, her voice high and breaking, with desperation. "Please, mighty human man, my sister was taken. Let's rescue her together." Evan froze, one hand drifting instinctively toward the pulse pistol at his hip. He took in the sight, the exhaustion in her shaking knees, the streaks of dust. On her cheeks, the sheer stubborn light in her eyes. "Slow down, kid," he said, stepping closer, his voice low. "Who are you? What happened?" She straightened, or tried to, small chin lifting in a fragile show of pride. "I'm Luara. The Void Walkers came to our home at the edge of the settlement. They took Allura, my sister. Everyone says you're the strongest warrior on Proxima. This," she glanced down at the blade, as though drawing strength from it, "this was my father's. Please help me." Evan reached out, his fingers brushing the hilt as he relieved her of the weight. The metal hummed faintly at his touch, an odd vibration that seemed to travel up his arm. He scowled, more at himself than at her. "Void Walkers are dangerous," he said. "This isn't for kids. Where are your parents?" Her gaze dropped, and her voice shrank to a whisper. "Gone. They took them last season. Allura is all I have left." Something cracked in the wall he kept around himself, a splinter in the armor that wasn't made of metal. He set the sword against the wall, hardening his tone. "No, it's too dangerous for you, little alien girl. I'll go alone. You stay here, lock the door, and wait for me." He crossed to the corner and began strapping on the battle armor. He swore he'd never wear again. The plates slid into place with practiced precision, muscle memory overriding years of neglect. The sword, though alien, felt right strapped to his back. He slung his rifle, checked the power cell, and moved for the door. Luara nodded obediently, but there was something in her luminous eyes, a quiet rebellion that told him she had no intention of staying behind Dot when Evan stepped into the Eternal. Dusk, the shadows stretched long before him, and the crimson horizon seemed to bleed into the barren land. He tightened the strap of the sword across his shoulder, the hum of the blade thrumming faintly at his back. The hunt had begun, though he couldn't shake the feeling that the girl with the two big eyes and the impossible sword had just changed. The course of his life forever. The wind off the open flats cut sharp against Evan's faceplate as he crossed the settlement's boundary. Beyond New Haven, the ground gave way to cracked, iron-rich soil and twisted vegetation that reached for the sky like skeletal hands. The air was still, thick with the faint metallic tang that always preceded a storm on Proxima 4. The Void Walkers weren't subtle. His boots found fresh depressions in the dirt-heavy tread from armored feet, the occasional drag mark from cargo, too cumbersome to carry cleanly. Allura, he guessed, bound but walking. He crouched, running calloused fingers over the disturbed soil, cataloging every detail the way he used to before missions. It had been years since he'd followed a trail like this, but the skills hadn't faded. A sound behind him light, quick, too close to be a wild predator. He straightened and spun, rifle coming up. There, half hidden behind a gnarled stalk of blackleaf shrub, was Luara. She froze mid-step, white hair whipping in the breeze, caught in the act of shadowing him. "I told you to stay behind," he said. Voice tight, her chin lifted, that stubborn glint back in her eyes. "It's my sister. I have to come." Evan opened his mouth to argue, but something in her expression stopped him. It was the same look he'd worn once, before the universe had hammered the hope out of him. He lowered the rifle with a sigh. "Fine. You stay behind me. If I tell you to run, you run. Got it?" She nodded solemnly, small hands tightening around the straps of her satchel. They moved on, the sound of their steps muffled by the wind-blown dust. Less than a kilometer out, Evan's internal sensors picked up faint heat signatures ahead. He motioned for Luara to stay back and advanced silently toward the source. A shallow rock formation jutted from the ground, its shadow sheltering a crumpled figure. As Evan rounded the edge, he saw it was a Void Walker humanoid, ash-gray skin, traced with shifting black markings, breathing raggedly through clenched teeth. His armor was cracked and sparking, a deep gash across his torso leaking thick, dark fluid. "Don't move," Evan said. Rifle trained on the alien's head, the Void Walker's eyes solid black, reflecting nothing snapped open. Recognition flickered there. "Human," he rasped, voice like stone grinding against stone. "Rare. Sight this far from your territories." "I'm not here to chat," Evan replied coldly. "You and your friends took a Proximan girl today." A wet gurgle came from the alien's throat laughter. "Not friends. Not anymore." Behind Evan, Luara's small footsteps crunched closer. He shot her a warning look, but she ignored it, gaze locked on the wounded raider. "He's dying," she said simply. "Good," Evan muttered. One less Void Walker to worry about. The raider coughed, dark fluid spattering the dirt. "You seek the pale one." "Elder sister." Evan's stance shifted, rifle steady. "Where is she? Help me." "And I tell you." His trembling hand moved toward the jagged wound. "Betrayed by my own clan." Every instinct screamed to leave him, but Evan knew information was worth more than one dying raider's pride. "Luara in my pack. Silver case." She rummaged quickly, handing over the medkit. Evan knelt, applying a sealant foam that hissed. On contact, slowing the bleeding. The alien hissed but did not flinch. She was taken, the Voidwalker gasped. Special. Like this one. His eyes flicked to Luara, but older. More developed. Royal bloodline. Valuable. Valuable. How? Evan pressed. Prophecy. Old Tailies. Proximan female and off-world male. Create powerful offspring. Commander Krell. Wants her for himself. Evan felt the words settle like ice in his chest. Where did they take her? Ancient ruins, East Ridge. Sacred place to her people. By sunrise. Ceremony will bind. Her. Then, too late. How many guards? A dozen, maybe less. Most left with main caravan. Evan's jaw tightened. Why are you helping us? Krell broke the code. We raid, we trade, but this is not our way. The alien fumbled at his belt, producing a small data chip. Access, ruins inner gates. Take it. Evan accepted it cautiously. If this is a trap, already dying, the Voidwalker said with a faint, humorless smile. What more trap need? Luara stepped forward and placed her small blue hand on his arm. Thank you. The alien stared at her, puzzled. Strange child. See why, sister worth saving. His gaze shifted to Evan. Human. Heard stories. Stubborn. Fierce. Good. Need that? To face Krell. His eyes fluttered shut. Breath. Slowing, Evan rose, tucking the chip into his belt. The wind howled low over the ridge, carrying the scent of ozone and stone. Let's move, he said. They set off toward the east, the shadows of jagged spires looming in the distance. The ruins waited, and with them, Krell and Allura. Evan kept one hand near the ceremonial sword's hilt, the metal's strange hum steady against his back. He told himself this was just another mission, nothing more. But Luara's steady footsteps beside him told a different story. She had asked for a rescue. Somewhere in the crimson gloom, he had already promised her more than that dot. The sky deepened into darker shades of violet as they closed on the eastern ridge. Here, the land rose in jagged steps, the rock worn into strange shapes by centuries of wind and sand. From a distance, the ruins emerged, broken spires, collapsed archways, and fragments of stone engraved with curling Proximan symbols. Half-light, they looked like the bones of some long-dead Titan. Flickers of firelight danced between the shattered walls. Evan dropped to one knee, bringing his tactical scope to bear. Through the green-tinted lens, he saw them void walkers, a dozen by his count, their black-armored forms moving in a semicircle around a raised dais in the center of the courtyard. And on that dais, bound but standing tall, was Allura. Even at this distance, Evan felt the jolt-like static snapping along his skin. Her pale blue complexion glowed brighter than Luara's, a halo of luminescence marking her maturity. Her hair the same silver white, as her sister's, spilled down her back in a shimmering cascade. The form-fitting Proximan jumpsuit clung to an athletic build honed by a life lived in motion. But it was her eyes that struck him hardest, brilliant turquoise, fierce and unyielding, fixed on the towering figure who stood beside her. Commander Krell, the Void Walker leader, wore armor inlaid with bone and metal, each piece etched with symbols Evan didn't recognize. His long, segmented helmet framed a face set in a predator's sneer. He was speaking in a loud, ceremonial voice, his words echoing against the ruined walls. By the ancient rites of conquest, Krell intoned, I claim this female as my bondmate. When the first light touches the sacred stone, our essences shall be joined for eternity. Allura's voice cut through his proclamation, strong and clear despite her bonds. I will never bond with you, Krell. Without the blade of ancestors, this mockery means nothing. Evan felt Luara tense beside him. She leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. That's why I brought it. Without the blade, the ritual isn't valid. The sword strapped to Evans. Back seemed to pulse in agreement, its glow intensifying as they neared the ruins. He glanced at her. It's important to your people? Her eyes were wide. It channels the spirit of Proxima itself. It can only be used in the most sacred ceremonies. Evan's mouth curved into a wolfish grin. Then let's crash theirs. He rose from cover, the sword in his hand catching. The firelight. The hum in the metal deepened, the engraved symbols flaring brighter until they bathed him in an eerie blue halo. His voice rang out across the courtyard. Looking for this? Heads turned. The Void Walkers froze. Their ritual broken. Even Krell's expression faltered for an instant. Human, he growled. How dare you interfere in matters beyond your understanding? I understand plenty, Evan called back, striding forward. I understand you're forcing yourself on someone who wants nothing to do with you. Where I come from, we've got a name for that. Allura's head lifted, and for the first time, her gaze found his. Something passed between them, recognition, connection, something older than either of them could name. A spark that seemed to hum in the very air. Kill. Him! Krell roared. The Void Walkers surged forward. Evan met them head on. The sword moved with impossible speed and precision, light trailing from its arc as if it carved the air itself. His every motion felt guided, each strike flowing into the next, each parry perfect. Around the chaos, Luara darted like a shadow, slipping between broken walls toward her sister Dot by the time she reached the dais and began working at Allura's restraints. Evan had dropped 3 raiders. The 4th went down under a sweeping blow that sent him sprawling into the dust. You came, Allura whispered as her bonds fell away. And you brought a human, she added, her gaze flicking toward Evan as he fought. The mightiest human? Luara said proudly, tugging her hand. Just like in the old stories. Krell's shadow fell across them. You will not escape me. His hand shot out toward Allura, but she twisted away, her reflexes quick as lightning. Evan! She called, and he turned toward the sound of her voice. Their eyes locked again, and this time the connection was like a current between them, undeniable. Krell saw it too. Rage twisted his features as he drew an energy blade that hissed to life in a crimson flare. The prophecy is mine. Evan stepped forward, sword raised, and for a heartbeat, the ruins seemed to hold their breath. The air shimmered with heat, the scent of burning metal already in it. The first clash of steel and energy lit the courtyard like a lightning strike. Sparks showered from the clash of blades as Evan pushed back against Krell's strength. The Void Walker's energy weapon hissed with malevolent heat, its crimson light glaring against the blue-white glow of the blade of ancestors. Each strike rattled up Evan's arms, but the sword seemed to move with him, anticipating his next step, guiding his hand to where it needed to be. Around them, the ruins dissolved into chaos. Void Walkers poured in from the shadows, but Evan's sudden arrival had thrown their ranks into disarray. Luara darted between shattered columns, pulling Allura toward a narrow archway half hidden behind the dais. This way! Allura shouted, her voice sharp and commanding. Evan twisted, shoving Krell back with a surge of strength, the blade's hum rising in pitch. For an instant, their eyes met Allura's bright turquoise, locked with his, and he knew without a word that she meant to lead him somewhere safer, somewhere important. He broke away, covering their retreat with a sweep of the sword that sent. 2 raiders stumbling back. Krell roared and came after them, but Evan was already following the sisters into the darkness of the archway. The air shifted instantly as they entered the tunnel's cooler, denser, tinged with a mineral scent. Light came only from the faint bioluminescent glow of the sisters' skin and the runes etched into the stone walls. The carvings pulsed in slow rhythm, their soft light echoing the heartbeat Evan felt in the sword's grip. "Keep moving," Allura urged, guiding Luara deeper into the twisting passageways. The tunnels were ancient. Evan could feel it in the way the stone seemed worn by centuries of passage, in the dust that clung to the carved symbols. He'd seen old worlds before, but nothing that felt quite this. A live dot after several turns, they emerged into a small chamber where multiple passages converged. Allura stopped, her gaze flicking over the runes on the walls, tracing them with her fingertips. The glow beneath her touch brightened. "This is a safe point," she said. "The Void Walkers won't find us immediately. They don't understand the way these tunnels shift." Luara sank down against the wall, exhaustion written across her small face. Evan took a knee beside her, the sword still in his lap. Its light was dimmer now, though its hum remained constant. He looked to Allura. "Back there, Krell said something about a prophecy. Royal bloodlines. You want to tell me why he's so fixated on you?" She hesitated, eyes on the glowing patterns. "Because my blood is the last link to Proxima's ancient line. My mother was the High Priestess before the Void Walkers came. Luara and I were the last of her descendants." "Royalty," Evan said, his voice edged with dry humor. "Guess that makes me the uninvited guest at a very ugly wedding." Her lips quirked in the faintest smile. In a way, the humor faded as she met his eyes. "The prophecy is older than these tunnels. It speaks of a time when Proxima would face destruction. When all seemed lost, a guardian from beyond the stars would join with the royal bloodline to awaken the heart of Proxima and restore balance." "Join with," Evan repeated, tone careful. Her gaze didn't waver. "The ancient word means both a uniting of purpose and a bond deeper than that." She let the implication hang between them. Evan felt the pulse of the sword in his hands, saw how its glow flared slightly when she stepped closer. "And you think that's me?" "I know it is," she said quietly. "The blade wouldn't have answered to you otherwise. It has been silent for centuries. For Krell, it remained nothing more than a relic. But in your hands." Her eyes dropped briefly to the sword, then back to his face. "It lives again." The silence between them was charged, broken only by the faint hum of the blade. Then, somewhere deep in the tunnels, a distant metallic clang rang out, followed by the muffled echo of shouting voices. "They found the entrance," Allura said, her tone tightening. Evan stood, his weariness already fading beneath the sharp edge of purpose. "Then we keep moving." She led them through a series of narrow corridors that began to slope downward. The walls changed here, the carvings more intricate, the glow stronger, the air almost thrumming with energy. The hum of the sword matched it, as though they were drawing closer to something it recognized. Finally, the passage opened into a vast cavern, and Evan stopped dead. At its center stood a colossal vessel, teardrop-shaped, its smooth, swirling surface the same luminous blue-white as the sister's skin. The ship seemed to breathe, light flowing in slow waves along its hull. Allura's voice softened with reverence. "The heart of Proxima." As they approached sections of the vessels, skin began to shift and open like an iris, revealing an entrance lit by a deeper, more vibrant glow. Evan looked at her. "It recognizes us?" Her hand found his, warm and sure. "Both of us the guardian and the bloodline." Behind them, the sounds of pursuit were growing louder. Krell's voice carried through the tunnels, his rage echoing off the stone. Evan tightened his grip on the sword. "Let's not keep it waiting." They stepped inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, the air changed. It was warmer here, charged with an almost electric vitality that prickled across Evan's skin. The walls curved in seamless arcs, their smooth, blue-white surface alive with shifting patterns of light. Each pulse seemed to match the beat of his own heart, or maybe Allura's. It was impossible to tell where one rhythm ended and the other began. Luara's voice was a hushed whisper. "It's like it's breathing." "It is," Allura replied, her eyes wide. "The heart was designed to adapt to its guardians. It knows we're here." Evan took in the space with a soldier's eye, noting the symmetry, the absence of hard edges. No seams, no bolts, everything was grown or shaped as a whole. "It's alive," he murmured. A holographic projection shimmered into existence at the center of the chamber, showing the cavern outside. Krell's forces were already flooding in, their black armor a stark contrast against the pale stone. Krell himself strode at their head, barking orders as his troops set up heavy drilling equipment aimed at the vessel's hull. "They can't penetrate it quickly," Evan said, scanning the projection, "but they'll keep trying until they do." Allura moved to a raised platform that pulsed brighter as she approached. Symbols appeared in the air spirals, and lines that shifted fluidly, refusing to settle into any language Evan knew. "It's ancient Proximan," she said, frustration in her voice. "I can't read all of it. The dialect is older than our recorded history." Evan stepped up beside her. The sword's hum deepened, and the symbols changed, reorganizing into patterns that made sudden sense in his mind. "It's not just a language," he said slowly. "It's instructions." Her eyes darted to him. "You can read it?" "The sword can," he corrected. "It's translating for me. 3 challenges to awaken the heart's full power." The first test took shape in front of them, an intricate, 3-dimensional maze of light, shifting constantly, threads of glowing lines weaving and unweaving. "Human ingenuity," Evan read aloud. "Logic and reason." He studied the maze, his combat-trained mind breaking it down into patterns. Hands moving with confidence, he traced paths, anticipating shifts, collapsing false trails, until the structure folded in on itself with a chime of approval. Somewhere deep in the vessel, a low hum resonated, and on the projection, a shimmering energy field erupted from the hull, pushing Krell's forces back several meters. "That bought us time," Evan said, wiping a sheen of sweat from his brow. The second test formed a constellation of symbols and glyphs. Proximan heritage, Allura breathed. Knowledge of the ancient lineages. She stepped forward, hands flowing over the glowing script. Her voice dropped into a low, melodic chant in an archaic tongue, fingers arranging the symbols into a precise pattern. The heart answered with a deeper hum, and the energy field outside flared brighter, repelling another assault. Then the third challenge appeared, and the chamber seemed to lean closer around them. "The sacred bond," Evan said, his voice low. "A joining of bloodlines to unite the vessel with its guardians." The meaning was clear, heavy in the air between them. Allura met his gaze without flinching. "This is what the prophecy meant. The heart needs us joined in truth, not forced to awaken fully." Luara shifted awkwardly nearby, glancing between them. Allura turned to her sister, her voice gentle but firm. "There's a viewing chamber down that corridor. You'll be safe there for a few minutes." The girl hesitated, then nodded and hurried away. When they were alone, Allura stepped closer, the light of the heart painting her skin in soft blue fire. "Evan," she said softly, "I won't pretend I understand all of this, but from the moment I saw you, I felt something, as though I'd been waiting for you longer than I've been alive." He reached up, brushing a loose strand of silver hair from her face. "I've been running from everything for years. And then you and your sister crash into my life. Suddenly, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Her lips curved in the faintest smile before she leaned in, their foreheads touching. "Then let's do this." They stepped onto the bonding platform together. The blade of ancestors slid from Evan's hand into a receptacle at its center, locking into place with a flare of brilliant blue light. The platform warmed beneath their feet, light spiraling up around them. When their lips met, the chamber erupted in a cascade of energy. The kiss deepened, and with it came a surge of human vitality, intertwining with her Proximan luminescence, merging into something entirely new. The glow wrapped around them, through them, until Evan could feel her heartbeat inside his own. Chest dot outside, the heart answered. Systems dormant for millennia roared awake, light racing across the vessel's skin. On the projection, Krell staggered back, shielding his eyes from the glare. When the surge eased, Evan and Allura stood in. Armor that hadn't been there before, organic and seamless, formed from the heart itself, tailored to their bodies. They turned to face the projection together, the stasis field controls at their fingertips. Allura, Evan said, his voice steady and sure. Let's show Krell what happens when you come after my family. The heart's pulse matched Evan's own, a steady, thrumming beat that filled the chamber like a war drum. The vessel's systems spread out before him in the air holographic projections that shifted with his intent as though they'd been waiting for his touch. Beside him, Allura's hands moved with instinctive precision, her connection to the heart as natural as breathing. On the display, Krell's forces had regrouped. Heavy drills had been repositioned around the vessel's hull, their operators working with desperate urgency. Krell himself paced between them, his voice amplified through his armor's comms, barking orders to increase power output. He had to know they couldn't break through quickly, but desperation made even cunning commanders reckless. They think they can cut their way in, Evan said, eyes narrowing. Let's make sure they can't. Allura touched a glowing spiral. On the projection, the heart was designed to protect life on Proxima, not destroy it. But there is a way to disable them without bloodshed. Evan read the meaning of the symbols she'd brought up. A stasis field? You can immobilize them? We can, she corrected, meeting his gaze. It will hold them conscious, but unable to move until we release them. The plan clicked instantly into place. Evan reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. The heart responded, the stasis controls blooming open around them. A deep vibration rolled through the vessel, and a wave of luminous blue energy surged outward. Outside, the field swept across the courtyard like a rising tide. One by one, void walkers froze in place, their weapons half raised, drills halted mid-spin. Only Krell resisted, his armor flaring crimson as it pushed back against the field's grip. He staggered toward the heart, each step slow, dragging, but driven by sheer will. This isn't over, human. His voice boomed across the cavern. The prophecy is mine to fulfill. Evan and Allura stepped forward. The stasis field parted around them, recognizing its guardians. Luara emerged from the viewing chamber, slipping between them to stand at their side. The prophecy was never about power, Allura said, her voice calm but carrying. It was about balance, about finding the right guardians for this world. And that was never going to be you, Evan added, his voice low and dangerous. The sword chose me. The heart chose us. Krell's lip curled. Then kill me. Prove you're no better than I am. No, Allura said. You'll answer for your crimes before my people. Surrender now, or remain frozen until we decide. Your fate. He laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You think this is victory? I am one commander. The Void Walker Collective will send others. They will never stop hunting what you have found. Evan's jaw set. Let them come. Proxima has guardians now. As if answering him, the heart began to shift. Plates of its hull unfolded, locking into new positions, forming towers and battlements that rose from the cavern floor. The vessel was becoming more than a ship. It was a fortress, a sanctuary, Light from its core reached up toward the ceiling, spilling through cracks in the rock to blaze into the eternal twilight above. Krell's armor finally failed, the stasis field swallowing him completely. His form froze mid-step, mouth twisted in a last snarl. Luara looked up at Evan. What happens now? He crouched to her level, resting a gauntlet hand on her small shoulder. Now we rebuild. We find your people, bring them here where they'll be safe, and we get ready for whatever's coming. Allura's hand settled on his other shoulder. We prepare together. In the days that followed, the Heart Fortress became a beacon. Proximans emerged from hiding, drawn to the call of their awakened guardian vessel. Families returned. Settlements began to form under its protection. Evan and Allura worked side by side, their bond deepening with each decision, each plan laid for the future. One evening, high atop the fortress walls, they stood together beneath Proxima's twilight sky. Do you ever regret it? Allura asked quietly. Evan glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Best decision I ever made. You and Luara. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost. From the courtyard below, Luara's voice called out, urgent and high. Evan! Allura! The sensors picked something up. They hurried to the Heart's command chamber. On the central display, a vessel descended through the atmosphere. Its design was unmistakable, sleek, angular, bristling with familiar weapons arrays. Evan's breath caught. That's a human alliance ship. Allura's gaze darted to him. Friends of yours? Once, he said slowly, eyes narrowing. But the alliance doesn't come this far without a reason. A transmission request flashed on the display. The voice that followed was crisp, official, and hauntingly familiar. Evan Kane. The alliance requests immediate audience with the Guardians of Proxima. Evan's fingers tightened on the console. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. He glanced at Allura and Luara, both watching him with steady, unflinching trust. Then it's time they met the new family. The Heart's great doors opened to at twilight as the Alliance ship descended toward the fortress, carrying with it the next chapter of their fight, and perhaps the true test of the bond that had changed them all.